Sawadee-kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program. It's actually the very beginning, the very first day of a 7-month program where I'm going to be guiding students and helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. And over this 7-month journey, I'm going to be teaching you a whole litany of teachings and providing you guidance to help you understand what the Buddha actually taught, all based in the original words of the Buddha. We're going to be using this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment, as our source text, which you guys are going to be able to get at no cost if you'd like. But what we're going to be doing to start out is we're going to start out with some meditation. That's the way we're going to start each one of our classes. But then afterwards, I'm going to go into a talk on what the teachings of the Buddha are and what they are not, helping you guys to kind of understand the teachings of a Buddha or from the Buddha from afar. But then I'm going to go into helping you understand what this program is, how it's constructed, and how to get the most benefit out of a program like this. So I'd like to welcome all of you to our class today. The Buddha guided students to attain this enlightened mental state where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, where the mind no longer experiences any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others can be eliminated from the mind. And the way this occurs is through training of the mind. Oftentimes, with our lack of wisdom in the unenlightened state, we think these feelings are actually being caused by other people, from something external. Sometimes we might blame our parents or our siblings or our life partner, or our children, or boss, or coworkers or neighbors or someone like this for the feelings that you're experiencing. But what you're going to be able to discover on this path through your own investigation, examination, your own reflection to independently verify, and through your practice of these teachings, is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, and that's why you can actually eliminate them. If it was other people that was causing these feelings, you wouldn't actually ever be able to eliminate them because you wouldn't be able to control what other people choose to do or what they don't do. So the Buddha figured out how to get to this enlightened mental state, and then he shared that guidance with countless people during his lifetime. And that's what I'm going to be doing over the next 7 months in this program and any other courses or retreats that you take with me, any of the resources that I share. It's all about helping you to be able to experience this same mental state that the Buddha experienced over 2,500 years ago, and that plenty of people have experienced since then. So again, welcome to all of you, and I'd like to invite you to join for our meditation, where I'm going to start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. And there's a point in our program where I'm going to do a 4-part series and helping you to learn the Buddhist chanting. But for right now, I'm just going to be doing it with you, and you're welcome to chant along if you'd like. The way that you can find these chants is if you go to buddhadailywisdom.com, that's our website, and you can click on free books. And from there, you scroll down towards the bottom and you'll see the daily chanting sheet there. It's also in our book and other places as well, but that's the place that's most readily accessible to you right now. So if you go to buddhadailywisdom.com and click on free books and scroll down towards the bottom, you'll see the daily chanting sheet. If you look at these chants, you're going to see that they're in the Pali language. This is the historical language of the teachings of the Buddha. And I chant these chants in order to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself, and also to ease the mind out of meditation. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally through chanting in order to commit them to memory. So it was used as a learning device during the lifetime of the Buddha. So you can see from the origins of chanting that there isn't any rite or ritual or ceremony or worship here. That's not what this is. It's not a prayer or anything like that. The Buddha used it purely as a learning device because everything he taught was oral. The technology to write things down didn't exist in that region of the world 2,500 years ago. Now, you might not see writing something down as technology, but that was technology 2,500 years ago. And just like technology gradually spreads throughout the world even today, it spread even slower back then. So the technology to write things down didn't exist during his lifetime. But shortly after his death, they did have that technology available, and they ended up writing his teachings down so that we can all benefit from his teachings. So you can see that there's no rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer here based on the origins of chanting. If you read the English translations in any of the places where I share the chants, you're going to see a lot of admiration, a lot of gratitude and appreciation and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because if you learn from a teacher how to move the mind from this anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings to the peaceful and joyful mental state of enlightenment, and this is a permanent mental state that you will always be experiencing. It's physically impossible for you to experience any discontent feelings like anger, frustration, or irritation. So if you learn from a teacher how to accomplish that, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, they were just sharing out of the kindness of their heart, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that individual too. Because to go around and say, here, chant these things to me out of respect for me, this would be ego and arrogance. And an individual who's gotten to enlightenment and surely a Buddha wouldn't have that in their mind. So I can pretty much know for sure that these chants did not come from the Buddha. They came from his students, either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha wouldn't teach people to chant these things to him. But as you grow and develop on this path, you might actually develop admiration and appreciation and gratitude and respect for the Buddha as well. Because when you see that his teachings actually work in your day-to-day life, and you're seeing your mind and your life and your relationships becoming more and more peaceful, you might actually develop that appreciation, gratitude, and respect as well. So like I mentioned, I'm going to teach you guys these chants in about 2 months from now in a 4-part series on Wednesdays. And if you can attend that, of course, they're recorded, so you'll be able to learn. But between now and then, we're just going to be doing the chants in order to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. And you guys are welcome to chant along. In terms of once we chant, what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to be guiding you in the meditation. You'll hear me kind of instructing you and guiding you during the meditation while we're actually meditating. So I'm going to be teaching you a little bit about meditation as we're actually doing it. Now, again, starting this Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching you a 4-part series in the breathing mindfulness meditation, where today is just about doing it together, give you a chance to experience it. On Wednesday, I'll be actually teaching it to you. And again, you can attend live, or you can actually watch the recordings for that if you can't attend it live for any reason. So today and all the other days that we have class, I'll just be guiding you in the meditation for a brief period. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. And I'm sure you'll probably hear a sound in your environment, because you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. So as long as your mind doesn't crave permanent quietness during meditation, when you hear that sound, whatever it is, you won't be annoyed or you won't be frustrated or agitated. But if you crave permanent silence and you hear a sound, you'll be frustrated and agitated or annoyed. But you can understand the world around you is constantly changing. It's impermanent, it's temporary. So you're going to hear occasional sounds here and there. And when you do, you can just reside peaceful and joyful, because you'll know that this sound is not permanent. It's going to arise, change, and fade away. So during that period of time where it's just quiet, we'll just all be meditating together. Whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or whether you're watching this on the replay, we can just all be meditating at the same time. Then we'll come out of that with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class, helping you to understand the teachings of the Buddha from afar, and then kind of discussing this actual program and the ins and outs of the program and how to get the best and most benefit out of the program itself. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught, and you'll learn these 4 positions over the course of this program. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. But in terms of just getting you started, the seated position is very common for people to meditate in the seated position. So you can actually sit on the floor, you can sit on a chair, you can sit in a sofa, you might be on a bench or a wheelchair, any of these other kinds of things. There isn't just one fixed way to sit. If you're on the floor, you might sit with some cushions or pillows or something like this, a blanket or something like this under your rear, just to kind of soften the seat. And then if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you like to do that just lightly, because if you have them real tight, it can impede the circulation and it'll cause pain in the lower body. So if you just lightly cross your legs, that's usually best. In terms of your hands and your arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But this practice isn't about everybody doing it exactly the same way, because that's not possible. There's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people just rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you find whatever's comfortable for you. What I'm sharing with you are just things for you to consider as guidance. And even sitting on a mat on the floor, some people like to put their legs off the mat, and this gets the hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. For anybody who's in a chair, oftentimes people like to put their feet either flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles. But when I'm at the temple here in Chiang Mai, I sit in a chair with my legs crossed. So that's an option for you as well. So you can sit however you're comfortable in a chair. And the same thing with your hands and arms, you can just put them wherever you like. It's usually helpful if you have your upper body erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This is going to keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. And you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you would like the upper body to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back, which will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. It'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with some chanting, and then I'm going to come back in with some guidance to help you during the meditation. And you're welcome to join along in the chanting. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Otang Mahakewanang Apiwateyami Savakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakawato Sāvaka Saṅkho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti Piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakhato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะเขวาโอตังมะเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวัตตาธัมโมดามังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone in our class today, whether you're tuning in through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or whether you're joining on the replay. Welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone in class today. Today is the beginning of our group learning program. This is the fresh new start of our group learning program, which is a 7-month program that's going to help guide you in the path to enlightenment. This was breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a primary form of training in addition to other things that the Buddha used in order to train his mind to get to enlightenment. And as I mentioned, I'm going to be teaching you this on Wednesday. If you attend live or through the recording, you're going to have a 4-part series on the next 4 Wednesdays that's going to guide you in developing this meditation practice, because this is an important component of a person's practice in order to help them move to enlightenment. If you experienced a bombardment of thoughts today where it was just like thought, or you maybe indulged in a thought and you followed it for a period of time, you looked at it and played with it, and then you're like, oh yeah, I'm meditating, let me bring my mind back to the breath. This is all normal, particularly when someone's first starting out, that they'll get a bombardment of thoughts or they'll indulge in a thought for a period of time during their meditation. So this isn't that you're bad at meditation. Sometimes people like judge their meditation and they're like, oh, I'm bad at meditation, so therefore I'm not going to do it. Well, you can't be an expert at anything the first time you try it, right? And the whole reason why your mind is experiencing those things, if you experience any of those, is that the mind is lacking discipline. It's lacking control. And that's the whole reason why you need to meditate. So if your mind is having a bombardment of thought, or you're indulging in thoughts and you're like, oh, I'm not going to do that meditation because my mind is experiencing that, well, that's the very reason why you would meditate, because the mind lacks the discipline and lacks the control. So you're going to experience that for many weeks and many months. And you can even be meditating for years, and you could go for a period of time, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, where your meditation is pretty peaceful. But then all of a sudden you have all these rapid thoughts again, even after years of meditating. The only difference between an enlightened being and an unenlightened being when they're meditating is that the unenlightened being is going to experience that bombardment of thought or indulging in a thought, where an enlightened being, they're going to have thoughts during their meditation, but they're going to notice it and they're going to cut it off and let it go right away. And then they're going to have this long period of time of peacefulness and joy in between those time frames. The mind's going to be stilled. And the mind is joyful at all times for an enlightened being, but in their meditation, there's going to be a thought. They're going to notice it. They're going to cut it off and let it go, bring their mind back to the breath, and then the mind is quieted and stilled. So you're going to experience these kinds of things for a while, even as you're training your mind. So don't think that you need to give up on meditation just because you're experiencing those things, because that's the very reason why you need to be meditating, because the mind is not very well disciplined or controlled. So again, welcome to all of you guys. What I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to first introduce you to the teachings of the Buddha, just kind of looking at them from afar and kind of helping you to understand kind of what are the teachings of the Buddha and what they are not. And then we're going to kind of switch gears a bit, and I'm going to teach you about this program and what this program is all about and how to get the most benefit out of the program itself. I'm going to be pausing at a few times during the class, and I'll do this in just about every class pretty much, where you're going to be able to ask questions. And if you'd like to ask questions, if you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put those into the comment section and I'll be able to see those. And if you're in Zoom, you have the added feature of electronically raising your hand, and then you can unmute your microphone and ask any and all questions that you like. You just need to look down in the reactions. It's like a section of your Zoom where it says reactions, and you should be able to electronically raise your hand, and I'll be able to see that. With so many people, I won't see your physical hand, even if you have your camera open, but I'll see the electronic hand if you press that. So to start us off with being introduced to the teachings of the Buddha, let's just first talk about what is a Buddha. This is a great place to actually start. Well, an individual who's a Buddha, they are a human being who attains enlightenment on their own without any teachers or any guides. Through their own efforts and their own development, they're able to actually get to this enlightened mental state by themselves. We're going to talk about what that is here in a moment. They also then, once they get to enlightenment, dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people. And countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. Then they will leave their teachings in such a way that they've been preserved so that more and more and more countless people can get to enlightenment after their death. So these are the three main criteria that make a Buddha, is that they get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They then dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. Then they will preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. What allows this individual to get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides is this fourth one, that an individual who is going to be a Buddha, even in the unenlightened state, they have a profound memory. They can remember countless details about their current life and their previous lives too. The way that you can understand this is that your mind has a limited capacity. It's kind of like a hard drive. Let's just say 500 gigabytes or 1 terabyte or something like this. And in the last 5 or 10 years, you can pretty much remember the things that you've been up to because you've been storing those files on your hard drive. But once you get to a certain capacity, you have to delete old files in order to store new files. This is why if you think back to your childhood, you just have spotty memories about what was going on in your childhood because you've had to delete those files in order to store these new files. Where an individual who's going to become a Buddha doesn't experience that. They have an unlimited capacity to remember countless details about their current life and their previous lives too. They have crisp, direct recall of exactly the things that were going on at multiple times during their life in their previous lives as well. And they collect up all that wisdom and they bring it into bear and bring it into practice to be able to actually train their mind and get to enlightenment in their last life without the help of any teachers or any guides. So an individual who's a Buddha, their mind functions exactly the same way as yours, just like all of us human beings. Our mind functions exactly the same. In terms of the content that each of us have in our mind, that's different and that's unique to each individual being, but the functionality of the mind is exactly the same. So the mind of a Buddha functions exactly the same way as any other being. So that's why whatever the Buddha did to be able to get to enlightenment, it's the same things that you need to do in order to get to enlightenment as well. But they have this one aspect of their mind that is unique to a Buddha, which is they have this unlimited memory to be able to remember things from their current life and their previous lives as well. And that's what allows them to get to enlightenment by bringing forth all that wisdom. An individual who's a Buddha can quickly determine the condition of someone else's mind, and then they're able to offer them teachings to be able to help them to then be able to progress on the path to enlightenment. But they only do this with their students. They don't just peer into people's lives and say, here, you need to do this and you need to do that. That would be unsolicited guidance if you were just telling somebody what they should or shouldn't be doing. This is one of the reasons why a Buddha is so successful in helping countless people get to enlightenment, is they can observe the quality of their students' minds, and then where they see unwholesome qualities, they can offer them teachings to eliminate those, and where they see wholesome qualities, they can then encourage and support and help the student to understand that those are wholesome things to be practicing. And then lastly, an individual who's a Buddha, they're a living, breathing, walking example of their teachings. Whatever they teach in their spoken words, they're also practicing that through their actions as well. Because a Buddha is wise enough to understand that they're teaching their students at every moment, whether they're speaking in terms of a class or something like that, or a discourse, or whether they're having some type of action, their students are learning from that. So a Buddha is going to be a living, breathing, walking example of their teachings, where whatever they are teaching in their spoken words, they're going to be practicing that in their day-to-day life as well, because their students are going to be able to observe that and be able to learn from it, and then help them to be able to get closer and closer to enlightenment. So these are the criteria of what make a Buddha, and we refer to this individual as a fully, perfectly enlightened one. The reason why is because if you're learning from a teacher who is not a Buddha, that student is going to learn certain things and develop their mind, and let's just say that person gets to enlightenment. Well, maybe about 80, 90, maybe 95% of what they learned actually led to their enlightenment. But there's a certain couple of things that maybe they're still doing out of respect for their teacher that didn't actually lead to their enlightenment, but they're still doing it. So in this situation, the individual has like a little bit of baggage left around, right? They're enlightened, they're experiencing enlightenment in terms of the quality of their mind, but there's a few things that they actually didn't lead to their enlightenment, but they just don't know that because of the way that their mind was progressing on the path. But an individual who gets to enlightenment as a Buddha without any teachers or any guides, if they're doing a particular meditation, for example, that they've come up with, and they see that it's not improving the condition of their mind, they will discard it. And if they see something that is improving their mind, they will know that that's the path to enlightenment. So that's why we refer to them as a fully, perfectly enlightened one, because by the time they get to enlightenment, what they know in terms of the path is the path to enlightenment. And then they're going to spend the rest of their life kind of illuminating that path, kind of putting lights down alongside of the path to illuminate it for everybody else to be able to see this path of how to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment. So this is what a Buddha is, and this is what we refer to them as a fully, perfectly enlightened one. In terms of introducing you to the teachings of the Buddha and what they are, is the teachings of the Buddha are a path to attaining enlightenment in this life. And this is occurring through purification of the mind. There are certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind, and he discovered these within his own mind, but then he discovered the tools and techniques of how to eradicate them and eliminate them from the mind. So he teaches that path of the tools and techniques, what those pollutions are, and then how to actually eliminate them from the mind. And because he did this work on his own mind and he saw the benefit in the improvement, he then shared that with other people to be able to understand how to purify the mind as well. We refer to these pollutions as the 10 fetters because there's 10 individual pollutions. And the reason why they're called a fetter is that 2,500 years ago, if you were a criminal and they were trying to keep you confined to a certain area, they would attach a fetter to your ankle. What a fetter is it's a shackle and a chain and a ball, and then they would just kind of keep you turned out in a field. Where today we put prisoners in a jail cell or prison cell, during the lifetime of the Buddha, they would attach this fetter to your ankle, and that would keep you confined in that area. So when the Buddha discovered these pollutions, he referred to them as fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped and confined in this constant cycle of experiencing anger and sadness and frustration over and over and over again. And when you eliminate these fetters, thus purifying the mind, now the mind is free, it's liberated, it's peaceful, it's joyful, it's cheerful, it's glad, it's uplifted. And this happens through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that you're purifying the mind. So this enlightened mental state that the Buddha taught, it is a mental state, and it's attainable during this life or at death. It's not a destination that you're going to after this life. It is a mental state that you attain during this life. And you can attain it at death as well, but it's much better to attain it during your life, because then you enjoy the rest of your life in this peaceful and joyful mental state. The mind will be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. And this is a permanent mental state that once you attain it, it's physically impossible for your mind to ever experience any of these discontent feelings ever again, such as sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of these and others are completely eliminated from the mind, and that's occurring through purification of the mind and training of the mind. And because you've eradicated these fetters or these pollutions, the mind will be performing optimally. So there's this high degree of focus, concentration, clarity of mind, and deep memory. You'll notice that you have deep wisdom about the world around you, where you can function with politeness, kindness, friendliness, and respect towards all beings, where you're not causing harm to others. Right now, you might find that to be a bit challenging and a bit difficult. There's probably certain relationships where it's challenging for you to be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful. But that's just because of what's going on in your own mind. Sometimes people think that that's being caused by other people. But what I'm going to help you to start seeing next week in a way that you can independently verify is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And because of that, you can actually eradicate it. And you can get to the point where you're being polite, kind, friendly, respectful in all situations. And because of that, and you're not causing harm to others, you'll see that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming. They will be at ease. Where if you're bitter, harsh, and hostile or aggressive in your relationships, that's all going to come back to you. You can look at the current relationships you have, and where you're being bitter and harsh and hostile, you can see that's all coming back to you. And it's very challenging to get to peace and joy in your life when people are constantly being bitter and harsh and hostile with you. You can still do it, but it's very challenging, right? So if you shut down your disrespect and your impoliteness and your all these other things where you're causing harm to others through your intentions, your speech, your actions, or your livelihood, you'll see that less and less harm will be coming back to you because you're not causing harm to others. And as I mentioned, all of this is occurring through purification of the mind and eliminating the 10 fetters. Now, when we talk about it in detail, we talk about it as the 10 fetters, or these 10 pollutions or defilements or taints. But when we talk about it at a high level, we talk about it in terms of craving, anger, and ignorance. This is referred to as the 3 poisons, or the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 fires. I'm going to be teaching you this in detail when we get to chapter 8 of this program. But here I just introduce you to it a little bit. What craving is this is the mind's longing, yearning, the chasing after the objects of its affection, pulling towards something, thinking that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. It's like the mind has an unquenchable thirst, and it's longing, yearning for a particular object. And if the mind gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, what it expects, what it's longing, yearning, and craving for, then the mind will experience painful feelings like sadness, anger, frustration, agitation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, things like this. So as long as there's craving, desire, attachment in the mind's going to be longing, yearning for things, sometimes getting what it wants and getting happy, but other times not getting what it wants. And as long as the mind is doing this, you can't be permanently happy. Because if you get happy based on some condition, like maybe it's sunny outside and you get so happy, well, that sun is not permanent. So as soon as you form your inner feeling of happiness based on the sun, when it's no longer sunny, you're going to experience the painful feelings like the sadness or frustration. Or if you get so happy when your bank account balance is up here, well, then when it goes down, and it will at some point, right? Because it's impermanent, now the mind is frustrated or agitated or annoyed. So the mind kind of sits around with these cravings, with this longing, yearning, and thinking that it's going to get satisfaction from something external. So it keeps chasing and chasing and chasing. It's kind of like the mind's like, I know what I need to be happy. I need some more money. Let me chase that for a while. And then if you get it, you're happy. And if you don't, you're frustrated. But then even that happiness fades away over time, because if you get more money, then you want more and you want more and you want more. Or the mind's like, I know what I need. I need a new boyfriend or girlfriend. That's what'll fix everything. Let me chase one of those for a while. Or maybe it's a bigger house or a new car or some other thing, a new job. The mind just chases and chases and chases. And as long as it's doing this, you can't be permanently happy. So if you're like in the mall and you're seeing like a brand new pair of shoes in the window and you're like, oh, a brand new pair of shoes. I can't wait to get those on my feet, right? Everybody's going to see these new shoes. Oh, it's going to be so wonderful. I can't wait to get them on my feet. If you go into the store and they have your size, you'll be happy. You'll be excited. You'll be so elated. But that's going to fade over time. But if you go into the store and they don't have your size, you'll be frustrated and agitated or annoyed. And maybe it's a video game or a new mobile phone or a piece of jewelry or something like this that the mind is longing, yearning for. It's not the object itself, because obviously you need a pair of shoes in order to walk around safely. It's not the object itself, because you're going to need material possessions in your life. It's the way the mind is longing, yearning for it and craving it to be a certain way. And as I mentioned, if you get what you want, you get happy, those pleasant feelings. And if you don't get what you want, you get the painful feelings, like the anger, sadness, and frustration. And when those painful feelings are arising, such as anger, it feels uncomfortable to experience those feelings. And the mind will falsely attribute these feelings to something external. And now when this anger is arising, what you will tend to do, thinking that the problem is external, is you will push people away out of your life, or you will push the situation out of your life. This is called aversion. And you can see that this didn't solve the problem, because when you push people out of your life, if that solved the problem, you would be completely happy for the rest of your life, because you now discovered a problem, you found the cause of that problem, and you push that person out of your life, and now that solves the problem. But you see that that didn't solve it, because you still get angry, you still get annoyed, you still get frustrated. So as long as you're pushing people or you're pushing a situation out of your life, you're not actually addressing the real problem. Or the second thing you might do is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile, being unskillful with your speech and your actions. This is almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. It's like, do things my way, right? Because the mind's trying to get its cravings fulfilled. And as long as you're doing this, you can't live harmoniously with all beings, because people will feel that hostility and aggression coming from you, and they might choose to leave out of your life. But at the very least, you're going to damage your relationship. Or the third thing you might do is you might put your expectations on people and try to control them and force them to do things your way. And this is, again, the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled. So when this anger is arising, you will tend to become unskillful when you think that the problem is external, and you'll push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or put expectations on people, pressuring them to do things your way. And now you have disharmony in your relationships. And you might notice that you're having broken relationships over and over and over and over again. This is the reason why, because of the mind's having craving, this anger is arising because you can't always get your cravings fulfilled, and the mind's falsely attributing this problem to something external. And where this is all coming from is this third one. Oftentimes people translate it as ignorance. I prefer the unknowing of true reality, or confusion, or misunderstanding, or misperception, because a Buddha, an enlightened being, doesn't refer to people in a derogatory, degrading, and denigrating way. And to refer to someone as ignorant would be denigrating, right? So while other people are translating this to be ignorance, I suggest you think about it as a lack of wisdom, or confusion, or misunderstanding, the unknowing of true reality. Because the unenlightened mind lacks wisdom and it has this confusion and misunderstanding, it falsely believes that the problem is external. It continues to crave, it continues to have anger, it continues to push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, and put expectations on people. But the solution here is to cultivate wisdom. As you cultivate wisdom, you will be able to see the truth of what's truly going on in your own mind and in your own life, and you can transform this. But if you don't understand what the true problem is and what the cause of that problem is, you wouldn't be able to transform it. So that's why starting next week on Sunday, I'm going to explain to you what the problem is, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward in a way that you can independently verify, because none of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. So while we call this craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues to exist. If it wasn't for that lack of wisdom, the craving and anger would have already been eliminated. So it's because of this lack of wisdom, because of this unknowing of true reality or this ignorance, that the craving and anger continues to exist in the mind. So you're purifying the mind of this craving, anger, and ignorance, or more specifically, the 10 fetters. Now, what the Buddha is helping you to be able to cultivate wisdom about in order to be able to transform the mind is the natural laws of existence. There are certain natural laws that are affecting you, whether you realize it or not. Just like when we grew up, the natural law of gravity was affecting us, whether we were aware of it or not. At the age of 2, 3, 4 years old, we struggled with this natural law of gravity. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, maybe we broke open our knees, maybe we damaged our toys, and boy, were we discontent. We were so upset because we didn't understand the world that we lived in. We were going around the world with a lack of wisdom of this natural law of gravity. But this natural law of gravity was affecting us whether we were aware of it or not. And slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of this natural law. We didn't believe in the natural law. We could see the truth for ourselves. We can see right there. As you hold something up in the air and it drops, we can see the truth that there's the natural law of gravity. It's right there. We're not believing that this thing exists. We know with 100% certainty. So we cultivated wisdom about this natural law, and now we make wiser decisions that lead to more wholesome outcomes. We tie our shoes, we look at the surface of the sidewalk when we're walking down the street. We stopped being so giddy and bouncing around as a child all the time. And now we're at the point where we can climb a ladder, we can ride a bicycle, we can get on an airplane, fly all over the world, because we fully awoke, meaning we fully cultivated wisdom about this natural law of gravity. And we did that through learning, reflecting, and practicing. Learning is to intellectually understand something, to investigate it and examine it. But then you need to take things into reflection where you independently verify what is true or false. But then you need to practice. You need to change your decision making and the way that you're making decisions in your day-to-day life. And that's where you acquire wisdom. And now you're fully awake to the natural law of gravity, to the point where if you kind of fall down, you might even start laughing. Right? Because you understand, like, silly me, look at this. I'm making some unwise decisions about this natural law of gravity. Well, the Buddha taught natural laws that you can independently verify, just like the natural law of gravity. The main natural law that he's teaching you is the natural law of Gama. Now, you might have heard this referred to as karma. This is a different language. This is the Sanskrit language, where the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. So people who study his original teachings will tend to use the word Gama. Now, if this translated to just one English word, I would just use that because it'd be easier for everyone, but it doesn't. So I'll explain to you what this is. What the word Gama means is it's cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. Whatever decisions you make, either wisely or unwisely, it's going to produce a result. And that result is your Gama. If you make decisions wisely, you will experience wholesome Gama, or wholesome results. If you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome Gama, or unwholesome results. So there's nothing mystical or magical here. It's not about punishments and rewards. There's not any kind of entity that's controlling this natural law and deciding who experiences what. Instead, it's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result. And when you lack wisdom of a natural law, just like the natural law of gravity, you will tend to make unwise decisions, and it's going to produce unwholesome results in your life. And when those unwholesome results are coming back to you, you will tend to blame that on other people. That's what the mind will typically do, is blame it on other people. Or the mind will think that it's good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate. Or some people will think that there's an entity like God, or an entity like the universe that's controlling what we experience and what we don't experience. Or again, people will blame it on other people. Well, if you resign yourself to this type of thinking, where it's good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate, or it's God or some entity called the universe that's controlling what you experience, or you blame this on other people, you're locked in. You can't change anything about your life. That's a defeating way to look at the world. And you know that that's not true. Instead, if you can understand the natural law of Gama and see it very clearly as we get to that, because I'm going to be teaching you that all the way through the program, and definitely when we get to chapter 9, we'll be teaching you that in detail. If you can see the natural law of Gama, that what you're experiencing is the results of your decisions, Well, this is very empowering for you, because if there's anything that you don't particularly care for that's going on in your life, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But if it's good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate, or if it's God or some entity that's controlling you, or if it's other people, you can't change anything. You're locked in because you can't change any of those things. But the beauty about this world is that we all have free will, and that if there's anything that we don't care for that's going on in our life, cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. If you'd like to verify a portion of this right now, you can, because sometimes people are like, hold on a second, there is destiny or fate, or there is good luck or bad luck. Look at the things that you're experiencing right now. Who chose the hairstyle that you're wearing right now? Who chose your clothes? Or maybe if those of you guys that don't have cameras on, maybe you don't have clothes on, right? Who chose where you're sitting or not sitting right now? Who chose to even log in and listen to this talk? Or who chose to click on this video or this podcast, right? You can ask yourself, who chose these things? Who chooses where you live? Who chooses the friends that you have? Who chooses your job or occupation or where you choose to work? All of these things are choices and decisions that you're making. And again, if there's anything that you don't care for, just cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. So that's what the teachings of the Buddha are all about. He's not explaining to you how the world should be. And if everybody follows certain rules and commandments, the world will become a peaceful place. He's explaining to you how the world is. And by understanding how the world is, now your mind has wisdom about this world and you can navigate it peacefully because you understand the natural laws that are affecting you. Because when you live in a world that you don't understand, you'll struggle and you'll have difficulties. That's what the anger, the sadness, the anxiety, the frustration, the guilt and shame and fear, all of that is showing you that there's certain things about this world that you don't currently understand. There's a certain lack of wisdom in the mind. So the Buddha is going to teach you how the world is. And by you understanding how the world is, you'll be able to navigate it more peacefully. So what you're doing is you're training your mind to get to this complete peace and complete joy through acquiring wisdom of these natural laws of existence. And this is what's going to eradicate the pollutions, because you might not even know what these 10 pollutions are in your mind right now. That's the lack of wisdom. You don't even know that they're even there. But over time, as I explain them to you and I explain you the symptoms of them, you're going to be able to verify that your mind indeed has them. And then when you implement the tools and techniques to eradicate them, and you see your mind becoming more peaceful, you'll know that these teachings are actually working. So the Buddha is helping you awaken to the wisdom of these natural laws. In doing so, you'll be able to navigate the world more peacefully. The Buddha's teachings are timeless, that he spoke very clear, very concise, and very precise. The natural laws that he talked about 2,500 years ago are the same exact natural laws that exist today. So his teachings aren't stuck in the past. Instead, he described these natural laws 2,500 years ago, and it's the exact same natural laws that exist today. So that's why you can learn and practice his teachings and experience this improved way of life, this better way of life, by purifying your mind and awakening to these natural laws. So he also taught the cycle of rebirth, and he taught 5 realms of existence. Now, as I mentioned, none of his teachings are based in belief, including the cycle of rebirth and the 5 realms of existence. There's ways for you to independently verify these things. You might not have the wisdom of how to do that right now, but you can cultivate that wisdom over time. But when someone's first starting out like this, I suggest that they set it aside, because what's happened in the past, it's in the past. It doesn't matter right now. And what may or may not happen in the future, it's in the future. It doesn't matter right now. The fact is that you're in this human existence, your mind experiences discontentedness, and you would like to solve that. But as you progress on this path, there is the ability for you to cultivate the wisdom of how to independently verify the cycle of rebirth in the 5 realms of existence. In our book series, we have 13 books. In volume 11, chapter 105, I put 17 different criteria that are going to help you to be able to independently verify the cycle of rebirth in the 5 realms of existence. But it's in volume 11, chapter 105 for a reason, because it doesn't matter right now. Right? You're at the beginning of the path to enlightenment. You need to focus on the core central teachings, and that's what's going to help lead to the improvement to the condition of your mind. This is something that you can set aside and you can get to in the future. But the Buddha did teach these things for specific reasons, Because first of all, it's the truth, and this is actually what is occurring. Right now, you might be believing that you only have one life, but you don't have any evidence of that. The only evidence you have is that you can't currently remember your past lives. But as you train your mind and you're eradicating this pollution, you could very easily start having memories of your past lives. Because as you eradicate that pollution, you can start seeing more and more of what's happening in this life and in previous lives too. And if you started having these vivid memories of previous lives, say, for example, that you started having vivid memories of being murdered, and it just kept repeating in your mind over and over and over again over multiple days and weeks, and you could think that you're going crazy, and this could really shake you up. But if you understand that these are memories from past lives, you can train your mind to set that aside and not even pay attention to it because you know it's in the past. So that's why one of the reasons why the Buddha taught this is because it's true reality. You can start experiencing memories from your past lives. And if you didn't know that that's the way the world is, it could really shake you up. Same thing with these realms of existence: hell, animal, afflicted spirits, which are ghosts, human realm, and heavenly realm. Now, the animal realm and the human realm, you're very familiar with that. Those beings have physical form, and you've interacted with beings in these realms, and they're all in the same time and space. And the same thing with the hell, afflicted spirit, and heavenly realm. They're in the same time and space. These are formless beings that don't have physical form, but some people can actually see them. And if you started seeing these beings and you didn't understand that that's the way the world is, it could really shake you up. So that's why the Buddha taught it, is because you might actually experience these things. Or the third thing that you might experience as you're awakening your mind is you might start experiencing communication from these beings. The hell realm, afflicted spirits, heavenly realm, these beings can actually communicate with you. Because again, they're all in the same time and space. Hell isn't down deep core in the core of the earth somewhere, and heaven isn't really far up in the sky somewhere. All these beings are in the same time and space as us. So just like if you were at a restaurant and 2 tables over, somebody was talking and you can ignore that, you can do the same thing with these beings. When you're hearing these voices, you can actually ignore it, right? But you need to train your mind to be able to do that. But if you didn't understand this is the way the world is, you could think you're going crazy, and people are even diagnosed with schizophrenia and things like this. But these are actually true, real things that are actually occurring. So the Buddha taught these things for specific reasons, but you don't necessarily need to learn these right up front. But if you do, it's in the book. And oftentimes you need to really understand more before you get to that point. That's why I put it in chapter 105 of volume 11. But I suggest you just set this aside, but you will kind of hear some things about the cycle of rebirth here and there. When we get to chapter 22 of this group learning program, you're going to hear me teaching about the evolution of our consciousness, moving from the animal realm to the human realm. So you're going to learn about that as we get to that point. I'll kind of introduce you to these things. But then as you develop further on the path, I'll teach you all about these things in a way that you can verify them. The Buddha also taught about God. Sometimes people think that the Buddha didn't teach about God. And if somebody thinks that way, they just haven't investigated the teachings of the Buddha close enough. You'll hear some people that say that he rejected the existence of God, or that he denied the existence of God. And again, this is just somebody who hasn't actually penetrated into the original words of the Buddha, because he absolutely did teach about this being. But he didn't make this being a central focus in his teaching. He didn't put God at the center of his teachings, because it's not God that determines whether you get to enlightenment or not. So he didn't put God at the center of his teachings. He put you at the center of his teachings, because it's you that needs to learn and grow and develop on this path, right? So he does teach about this being, but there's not any kind of rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship or prayer. It doesn't mean you can't do those things. That's a choice for you to make. But he didn't teach to worship this being, because it's not this being that determines whether you get to enlightenment or not. When we get to chapter 18, I'm going to teach you about this being, and I'm going to explain to you how to get to enlightenment with a relationship with this being, if that's what you would like to do, and how to get to enlightenment without a relationship with this being, if that's what you would like to do. Because there are certain things that you might have been taught, like this being is controlling you, or this you should fear this being, or this being is punishing you, or that this being has a plan or a destiny for you that you need to fulfill. Or you might have been taught to pray to this being and ask for all kinds of benefits from this being. And if you're choosing to do these things now, that's where you're at now. But you can learn through independent verification that these things aren't actually true. So I'm going to help you with that when we get to chapter 18. But for now, you can at least know that the Buddha did teach about this particular being. The largest, most complete collection of the teachings of the Buddha are in what's called the Pali Canon. It's called the Pali Canon because the historical language is the Pali language. It's 45 volumes of books that are about this thick. In fact, I have one right here since I'm at home. This is one version of the Pali Canon, right? This is one book of very many books that is the Pali Canon. So the average person that considers themselves to be, practicing the teachings of the Buddha doesn't actually study with the original words of the Buddha. This probably comes to a surprise to many of you guys. But the original version of the Pali Canon is very costly, very expensive to print out. Here in Thailand, it would cost about 3 months of your salary to be able to print this out if you were an average Thai person. So the average person, the average temple doesn't even necessarily have access to the original Pali Canon. So it's very rare that somebody will be studying with the original words of the Buddha because it's so comprehensive. So this book series that I share has been consolidated to the point where it's 13 books, and they're not thick like this one, right? So it's called The Words of the Buddha, The Path to Enlightenment, Revealing the Hidden. And I titled it The Revealing the Hidden because these teachings have been hidden for many, many hundreds of years, not intentionally, but inadvertently, just because it's so expensive and costly to print them out. But now, with modern technology, we were able to consolidate this into a manageable, digestible amount of material, and then we can give it away for free. You can download it from our website by going to buddhadailywisdom.com. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here in Chiang Mai at our temple by just reimbursing us for the printing cost. Then we'll use those funds to go purchase more books. Or you can order it on Amazon if you have access to Amazon. So that's the book series that I share. And in this particular program, we're going to be using volume 1 of this book series to be able to walk you through slowly but surely developing a foundation in the path to enlightenment. So one of the ways to think about the teachings of the Buddha is that they are to heal from what hurts you so that you never need to hurt ever again, right? I'll say that again, is the teachings of the Buddha are to heal from what hurts you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But it's important to understand what's hurting you is inside your own mind. It's not the outside world. Oftentimes people try to go around and change the outside world. That's not going to get you to peace. So in order to heal from what hurts you, you're going to need to know what is actually hurting you. And that's what I'm going to teach you next week, right away. From the very beginning of our program, I'm going to help you understand this so that then you can actually improve it through training your mind. And that's what's going to help you to be able to heal from what hurts you so you never need to hurt ever again. So I'm going to pause here on this particular topic of what are the teachings of the Buddha and open up to any questions that you guys might have. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or you can raise your hand electronically in Zoom, and then you'll be able to unmute your microphone and then ask any and all questions that you like. So are there any questions anywhere in Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom? Okay, it looks like Yihang has a question. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Teacher David. Is the question can only be about the content of the teachings of the Buddha, or can I ask a small other questions about the meditation?
Yeah, what I like to usually do is at the beginning of a program like this is just stay focused on the content that I'm sharing. And then at a later time, I'll be opening up to like more personal questions and developing your practice itself.
Okay, understood. Then I'll wait.
Okay, yeah. And also, Yihang, if you'd like to send me a private message or post on our Facebook group or schedule personal guidance or something like that, I can help you that way as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, it looks like Arvind has a question. Teacher David, what would be a few simple things we should immediately do to put the teachings into practice for a beginner? I actually have exactly that to share with you here in a moment, Arvind. So I'm going to be sharing that here in a moment. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. All right, so now what I'm going to do, we have another question here. This is from Julie. Teacher David, I was told and also read from the book Buddhism is not a religion because we are all Buddha. You just mentioned there is a God. Does that mean Buddhism is a religion because of the existence of God? I'm going to explain both of these things to you too here in a moment. So give me just a moment, and I've already got them as part of our discussion because these are common questions that students actually ask. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what the teachings of the Buddha are not, right? This is one of my teaching methods, that I teach you what something is, and then I teach you what something is not, because teaching you something that is not, that is helping you to understand what something is, okay? So what the teachings of the Buddha are not is they are not a collection of beliefs, doctrine, concepts, opinions, or views that will produce a pleasant afterlife if you believe in them, and an unpleasant afterlife if you do not believe in them. In fact, there's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha whatsoever. You're not believing things, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. And how could you ever make wise decisions if you're not making decisions based in wisdom? It's just a belief. Maybe somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. You need to be able to see the truth, and then you'll actually know what is true and what is false, and now you can make wise decisions in your day-to-day life. The teachings of the Buddha aren't a doctrine or concepts or opinions or views. He's explaining true reality of how the world is, and that's what's going to help you to cultivate the wisdom. Whether you consider the teachings of the Buddha a religion or not is up to you, but it all comes down to how you think about a religion. If you think about a religion as one person at the top that is telling everybody else what they should or shouldn't be doing, or you think about a religion as having rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship, or you think about religion as rules and commandments that everyone must follow in order to create a peaceful world, the Buddhist teachings aren't a religion, because there isn't one person at the top of Buddhism. There aren't any rites and rituals, ceremonies, or worship. If you've seen these things attributed to the teachings of the Buddha, those are changes that people made after his death, that his original teachings don't have any rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship, because his goal is to help you cultivate wisdom. There's no rite, ritual, ceremony, or worship that's going to help you cultivate wisdom. There's no amount of water that I can sprinkle on you. There's no amount of strings that I can tie on your wrist that is going to help you to cultivate wisdom. In fact, that's part of the unknowing of true reality. So as long as someone's doing rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship, not understanding that these things aren't helping them to cultivate wisdom, then they're not actually progressing towards enlightenment. Whether you do these things or not is your choice, but they're not going to help you cultivate wisdom to make better decisions in your day-to-day life. So there aren't any rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship in his teachings, and you won't see me doing any of those kinds of things. The teachings of the Buddha also aren't rules and commandments. Sometimes people teach it that way. He's not giving you any rules, because if there were rules, who's going to come enforce those rules, right? If there's going to be rules, or there's a law that, like someone's enforcing this particular rule, well, who's going to do that, right? There's nobody around to do that. He's teaching you about how the world is. So if you consider this to be a religion, then the Buddha's teachings are not a religion. Because the Buddha is teaching about God, Julie, that doesn't make it a religion. He's just explaining true reality of what is and what is not happening in the world. And some people have independently verified that God does exist. Others have not had that same experience. And the Buddha never taught that everybody is a Buddha. Today, you have some people that are describing it that way, but that's not what the Buddha taught. He never taught that everybody is a Buddha. This is an individual's own ego thinking that they are a Buddha, and also at the same time not understanding what a Buddha is and what a Buddha is not. A Buddha is very rare in the world. The Buddha says this in his teachings. And if you understand the criteria of what make a Buddha, you can see that the last Buddha that the world currently is aware of existed over 2,500 years ago. And the world isn't currently aware of any Buddha that has existed since that time frame. So everybody is not a Buddha, and just because he's teaching about God isn't what makes it a religion, because this is true reality of what truly is occurring. But whether someone has that independently verifiable evidence of the existence of God is going to be unique to that individual person. The teachings of the Buddha are not punishments and rewards. Sometimes people are taught that way. That's not what his teachings are. If you've learned other traditions, you're going to need to set that aside, because you're not going to see that in the teachings of the Buddha. His teachings aren't mystical and magical. There's no superstition or auspicious things as part of his teachings. His teachings are not something to go out and attempt to force or convince other people to do. This path is for you. one of the ways you might think about this is it's like a self-help program. It's the most well-vetted self-help program that's ever existed because it's been around for 2,500 years. So this isn't to go out in the world and force others or convince other people to do anything particular. This is for you to do this inner growth and development within your own mind and in your own life. Also, if you spent any time on social media, you might have seen like short, catchy phrases where it has the Buddha's name on it. It might have some saying and then it says the Buddha. Well, if you end up verifying these and researching these, you'll see that 99.99999% of them aren't actually from the Buddha at all. Most of those quotes have been shared in the last 100 to 200 years by somebody in a book or in an article or something like that. And somebody got that quote and they slapped the Buddha's name on there just to give it more credibility. But the Buddha doesn't have short, catchy phrases that are going to support or produce some kind of benefit. Right? The Buddha's teachings are very deep, very comprehensive. He has these very long discourses where he's teaching you how the world is. So these short little catchy phrases that you see, you can rest assured that the vast majority of them are not actually from the Buddha. Also, the teachings of the Buddha are not stuck in a cultural past that degrades or judges other people. Sometimes people think like, oh, 2,500 years ago, the Buddha must have denigrated women, right? Or the Buddha must have denigrated minorities, right? Or he must have denigrated people who prefer same-gender relationships, right? The answer is no. He didn't do any of that stuff because he was teaching everybody how to be polite, kind, friendly, respectful to everyone. He taught that everybody is equal. And you can see this in his teachings if you explore them. So you're not going to see teachings from the Buddha that are stuck in this cultural past that degrades and denigrates people. It's actually just the opposite. He's teaching people to be polite, kind, friendly, respectful to everybody around him. So just to kind of summarize what we were talking about so far is that what a Buddha is that they're a human being that figures out how to get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They share their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. Then they preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people get to enlightenment after their death. What the path to enlightenment is this is a path or a journey of growing and learning and evolving, developing as a human being, developing a life practice to purify the mind through this gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You can't just snap your fingers and instantly get to enlightenment. That's one of the myths about the life story of the Buddha. People think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. You can see it in his teachings that it's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And you know this to be true because everything you've ever done in life has been that way. Whether it's learning to read and write and speak any certain language like English or others, or some job or occupation, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that brought you to whatever results you're having. And it's the same thing with the path to enlightenment. So this isn't a 1 week thing. This isn't a 7 month thing or a 1 month thing. This isn't a 1 year thing, right? You're not going to be enlightened in the next 7 months. It's not possible. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. It took the Buddha 6 years to get to enlightenment. So it's going to take you some time, but this journey is very enjoyable because it's the final solution, right? It's normally when you walk up a mountain and you get up to the top of the mountain, you did all that work and you see that beautiful view and you get all that fresh air, you have to come back down the mountain, right? But this isn't that way. You do this effort and work to climb this mountain, and now your mind stays in that permanent mental state, enjoying it for the rest of your life. What enlightenment is it's a mental state where the mind's peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It's a permanent mental state where you're no longer experiencing any discontent feelings. And there's all those other benefits as well. And there's some benefits that I haven't even mentioned as part of this enlightened mental state. But you'll learn this when we get to chapter 3. In chapter 3, I'm going to explain to you what is enlightenment. We're going to spend an entire class period just learning about that. So to end here, what the teachings of the Buddha are is to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to ever hurt ever again. Right? That's what the teachings of the Buddha are for. So if you're done with the anger, you're done with the sadness, you're tired of feeling guilty and shameful, you're tired of the loneliness and the boredom and the broken relationships and all these things, that's what the teachings of the Buddha are here for, is to help you with all of that can transform your mind and transform your life through cultivating wisdom and improving the way you function in the world, becoming a better and better human being. So I'm going to pause here before we shift over to some other things. Let me just see if you guys have any questions on anything I've been sharing so far. Remember, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So now we're going to kind of shift gears and start talking about the program itself. Let's talk about what the group learning program is. The group learning program is a live interactive program that you can attend in person here in Chiang Mai at the temple or online, either at the temple or here in the evening. I teach from my home in the evening. I teach the same class twice in a day. So at 9 a.m. Thai time, I'm teaching at the temple and live streaming. And then at 9 p.m., I do it from here at home and I live stream. And this is to make it available for all the different time zones around the world. So it's a live interactive program where you can learn the path to enlightenment. And you can attend at the temple through Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube. We meet on Sundays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. And this is Thai time. And you're going to need to figure out what time that is for you, because that might be Saturday evening and Sunday morning, or it might be Sunday afternoon or something like that. And all these classes are recorded. So I'm doing this on Sunday and Wednesday. And then on Sundays, what I'm doing is I'm going chapter by chapter in this book each Sunday, helping you to understand the teachings. And if you've read the chapter either before class or after class, you're going to gain a lot of insight, because there's certain things that are in the book that aren't in the classes. And there's certain things that are in the classes that aren't in the book. So you're going to be able to have a discussion on these chapters and then ask any questions and get answers. On Wednesdays, that's where I'm going to be doing meditation with you guys. And we'll be doing meditation on Sundays as well. But on Wednesdays, not only are we going to be doing meditation, but I'm going to be teaching you meditation. I'm going to be teaching you the Pali chanting, and then I'll be opening up for questions and providing answers on Wednesdays as well. There is a Facebook group called Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, where I put daily posts in there that are going to help you with your learning. And you can also ask questions there. If you ask questions there, I'm the only one that will answer those questions. Other students might read your questions and read the answer that I provide and then ask follow-up questions, but they're not going to teach you there. It's only the answers that are coming from the teacher. There's a book, there's audiobook, there's video library, there's podcast, there's quizzes. I've taught this program multiple times. I think this is like the 10th iteration that I've actually taught this entire program. So it's been recorded multiple times, and it's on our Facebook page, it's in our YouTube channel, it's on our podcast. All these are available for you. The quizzes are there to just help you confirm after you've read the chapter and you've attended the class. If you'd like to take the quiz, you can. It'll help confirm for you that you actually have understood what you need to understand. And you might see a few jokes in those quizzes too that help you be entertained. So you can get ongoing support as you're learning in this program, not only in this program, but outside of it as well, where you can ask questions during the classes. You can post in the Facebook group and you can get help that way. You can send me a private message through email, WhatsApp, Line, WeChat, Facebook, all those different things. I'm on all of those places. You can send me a private message, or you can schedule personal guidance where you can go to our website, you can schedule an appointment, and then we'll meet in Zoom, just you and I. Because it's one thing to learn in classes where I'm talking more in general, but it's another thing to take those teachings and relate it to your specific challenges in your day-to-day life. So you can get help in all these different ways. Asking questions in class, sending private messages, you can post in the Facebook group, or you can schedule personal guidance. And all of this is available to you at no cost. There's never a time where I'll ask you for anything. You can choose to learn and grow and develop at no cost as much as you like. There's no expectation from me of anything. I'm just here to support you and encourage you along the path with nothing but ambition and enthusiasm to see you learn and grow and develop. The mental state of enlightenment is why somebody would be interested to take this particular program. That if you're interested in eliminating the anger and the sadness and all those other discontent feelings, getting to that peaceful and joyful mental state, this is the reason why somebody would actually attend a program like this, where you can experience peace and you can face your challenges with wisdom instead of struggling and having difficulties. You can improve your personal, professional relationships and get to the point where your mind's performing optimally, where there's focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. And also, you will eliminate continuing to come back over and over and over again. And then in terms of integrating the teachings into your life, this is what you were asking, Arvin. These are the things that you would like to do to get started. And this is some simple things that you can just get started with today. What you would like to be doing all the way throughout your life is attending weekly classes, either in person or online, or attending in-depth learning opportunities on an as-needed basis, like 5-day retreats or things like this. I offer courses and retreats that you can attend. So if you're coming each Sunday and Wednesday or listening to the recordings, you're going to be gradually trickling the teachings into your mind. So you'd like to be attending classes gradually, Sunday and Wednesday, either through the recording or through the live class, and that's going to help get the teachings into your mind slowly but surely to be able to learn them. Then you'd like to be reading this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. And remember, you can get this at no cost on our website. You can be reading this just for like 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. You don't need to read it anything more than that. Because if you sit down and read it for an hour or 2 or 3, that's like taking a big bite of pizza and trying to chew it and digest it. It's going to be a lot harder for you because you're not just trying to complete the book. You're not just trying to get to the end of this program. You're trying to gradually, methodically walk your way through it where you're independently verifying whatever is being shared, whether it's in the book or the classes. So if you're reading for 2 or 3 hours, that's a whole lot of content to independently verify. So just 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, do a little bit of reading. Even when you're reading, you might be like, oh my goodness, this is really good. I want to read more. Just restrain your mind, pull back, and just read 10, 15, 20 minutes and just think about what it is that you're reading each day. Then you're going to need to develop a practice of generosity, where you're frequently giving and sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources with other people around you without any expectation of anything in return. What this generosity is doing for you is it's training your mind to let go. Because in the unenlightened state, when you have that craving and clinging, the wants and expectations where the mind's holding on, the mind doesn't want to let go. So you need to train your mind to let go. The mind will become somewhat selfish when you have that craving and clinging in the mind. So frequently, each day, practicing a little bit of generosity. And it doesn't have to be, significant. The frequency is actually more important than the amount. But you need to practice sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources without any expectation of anything in return, right? Like say your neighbor has their trash blown all over their yard. Maybe you help them to pick it up. Or maybe you're at the market buying yourself some juice or something. Maybe you pick up a couple extra bottles for the people back at your office or something like this. So if you're practicing generosity, you can do this little by little and just integrating it into your day. Like maybe you're going into the store and you see somebody's behind you and you decide instead of just opening the door for yourself and walking through, you're going to hold that door for somebody behind you. But remember, you need to do this without any expectation of anything in return. Not even the expectation of a thank you. Because if you're standing there holding the door, expecting a thank you, and they don't say thank you, you'll cause your mind to be frustrated, right? Because not everybody who walks through this door is going to say thank you. That would be permanence, and not everybody's going to do that. You can't expect anything from anybody, not even a thank you. And the reason why I know that you might be doing this is because that's what I used to do. I used to hold the door and wait for somebody to go through, and if they didn't say thank you, I'd be frustrated and agitated or annoyed. But if you get rid of that expectation and you just understand that you're practicing generosity for only one reason, to enhance the quality of your mind, that's it. That's the only reason why you're practicing generosity. So you practice generosity where you're giving and sharing with the people around you. Then you develop your moral conduct through the Eightfold Path. This is what I'm going to be teaching you over the next 3 Sundays. That there's certain speech and actions and maybe a livelihood that you're practicing that is causing harm to others. And as long as you're putting out this harm is going to come back to you. So what the Buddha teaches you to do is shut down your unwise and unwholesome moral conduct. Because as long as you're spewing that all over the world, that's all going to come back to you. So if you're being bitter and harsh and hostile to others, that's all going to come back to you. But you're not going to be able to snap your fingers and instantly become a polite, kind, friendly, and respectful person. It's going to be gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So 2 Sundays from now, I'm going to teach you the moral conduct of how to improve how you interact with others. And it's going to take you time to integrate that. It's kind of like if a pipe busted and it was spewing oil all over the place. You're not going to go clean up the oil spill on the ground first. You're going to shut down the pipe. So shutting down your unwholesome and unwise moral conduct is like shutting down the pipe. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. Then you'd like to develop a daily meditation practice of 2 or 3 times a day for 30 minutes or more per session. Now, it can take you 6 months, a year, even 2 years to build up to this. And 30 minutes 2 times a day might sound like a whole lot to some of you. But if you look at your life, there's probably certain things that you're doing that are unbeneficial. And if you start clearing those things out of your life, you'll have more and more time to be able to do things like meditation. But right now, you might not be at a 30-minute meditation, and that's okay, right? You're not in a race with anybody. You're not in a competition. You're not doing any of that kind of stuff. This is your own personal journey to enlightenment. You're not a devotee. You're not a follower. You are your own independent practitioner, and your teacher is like a tour guide, pointing out for you the things that you need to learn and understand. So you are in your own journey. You're not in a competition with anybody around you, even if your husband or your wife or your friends or family are practicing these teachings or starting to practice them. You guys are 2 independent practitioners. And I recommend that you develop your meditation practice slowly but surely. And I'm going to teach you how to do that on Wednesday. So what you'll notice here is frequency is also more important than duration. So if you're meditating now for 5 or 10 minutes a session, excellent. Meditate 5 or 10 minutes a session, and then gradually expand that over time. And then as you're going throughout your day-to-day life, you're going to need to seek guidance from a teacher. And that's why I gave you all those methods. You can ask questions in classes, you can post on our Facebook group, you can send a private message, or you can schedule personal guidance because you're going to need that along your journey. This is the book of Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. You can get it from our website. From there, you can download it, take it, go print it. You can get it on Amazon, or you can get a version at our temple just by reimbursing us. So you're going to need a version of this book. Then in terms of kind of how this program unfolds is, as I shared before, it's Sunday and Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 9 a.m. in the morning or 9 p.m. in the evening. And the recording is available right away as soon as I'm done on YouTube and on Facebook as well. The podcast will come out about 3 days after the class. So if you like to listen to the podcast, it'll come out on Wednesday for the Sunday class. And then for the Wednesday class, it'll come out on Saturday. So you're always welcome to use any of those methods because some classes you'll probably be able to attend live. Others you'll probably need to attend by the recording. So you can choose for yourself however is appropriate. As I mentioned, this is an independent study. It's an independent journey. You're not in a race with anybody. You're not in competition with anybody. You're not a follower. You're not a devotee or anything like that. You are an independent practitioner. Your teacher is like a tour guide. I'm not holding your hand, walking you through this. I'm guiding you like a tour guide and pointing out for the things that you need to learn. And I'll share those things and I'll share the resources with you. But it's up to you to decide what you would like to learn and grow and develop. Because if you did everything that's available, that'd be a full-time job. You're going to need to decide whether it's the classes, the books, the quizzes, audiobooks, the podcast. What is it that works best for you? And then just kind of integrate that stuff slowly into your life. And as you're learning, independently verify the teachings. Through independent verification, you won't be believing anything. You'll be learning, growing, developing, independently verifying and practicing the teachings. And then slowly developing your meditation practice. And while it's easy to say to set aside what you've previously learned, it's harder for the mind to do it. Whatever you've done in the past that's gotten you to where you are today, none of that stuff has led to your enlightenment. Now, there might have been things that you've learned that have been beneficial for you, but as you're learning on this path, you're going to hear things and you're going to learn things that are completely different and opposite of what you've learned in other places. And in those situations, that's a really good place to be. Because if you know your mind is currently unenlightened and what is being shared with you is different than what you currently know, that's an opportunity for you to learn and grow and develop. So I encourage you in those situations to ask questions. Don't assume that you're right and the teacher is wrong. Instead, understand that what you currently know isn't 100% the truth. Otherwise, you wouldn't be experiencing stress and anxiety and frustration and anger and sadness and other things like that. So where you hear that I share things that are opposite of what you currently know, that's an opportunity for growing and learning. And that's where you can ask questions. Because if you're in a class where the teacher is sharing things and everything is what you already know, you're in the wrong place because you're not learning and growing and developing. So you're going to need to set aside certain things that you've learned before and approach this with an open mind where you can take in new understanding and new wisdom. And you can do that through asking questions rather than assuming that you're right and the teacher is wrong. And then lastly, I'll share this, is that no one's ever accomplished anything great and magnificent through complacency, right? If you're dull and lethargic and complacent, you're not going to get very much benefit out of what you're embarking on here with this journey, with this particular program. You're going to get out of this program what you put into it. So if you choose to come to classes or listen to the recordings, if you choose to read the books, if you choose to do the meditations and learn the other practices and integrate those into your life, you're going to get a lot of benefit out of this program. In fact, I've heard some students that talk to me that they've gotten benefit in as short as 2 days. Sometimes I teach a particular course here. I'm actually going to be starting one tomorrow on Monday here in Chiang Mai, where it's a 5-day course. And I've had students come in on Wednesday morning and say, David, I got an email this morning that would have normally shaken me up and I would have been so frustrated or felt guilty or worried. And I understood it and I was peaceful and calm and I wasn't upset or frustrated in that situation. And they could notice in just 2 days that they were able to experience that benefit. Now, that's not everybody's going to have that same experience. It might take you a little bit longer, but nonetheless, if you apply effort and energy to learning and growing and developing, you'll see improvement to the condition of your mind. Because the teachings of the Buddha absolutely will work. They lead exactly to this enlightened mental state that he describes. Now, just to kind of give you a heads up about how I'm going to be teaching over the next few Sundays and Wednesdays, that today we did the welcome and the introduction to the program. Over the next 3 Sundays, the second, third, and fourth Sunday, I'm going to be going into detail on the Eightfold Path. This is the path for all humans to enlightenment. I'm going to break it down into 3 sections and go into detail. And over the course of those 3 classes, you will have a real good understanding of what the path to enlightenment is. You won't be perfecting it at that point, but you at least know what it is. And then on the 5th Sunday, I'm going to teach you those 10 fetters, those 10 individual pollutions, and the 4 stages that your mind goes through as you're getting closer and closer to enlightenment. It's not until the 6th Sunday that I'm going to start on chapter 1. So if you'd like to start reading now, you could. You could read the preface or any other parts of the book. I'm going to be teaching you chapters 4 and 5 at the very beginning of this program. That's the Eightfold Path, because that's the real heart of the teachings of the Buddha. That's the core central teachings. But if you'd like to start reading, you can start reading at any time. But I'll give you a heads up when I'm getting ready to move into chapter 1 on that 6th Sunday. And then on Wednesdays, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a 4-part series on learning breathing mindfulness meditation. This is the first meditation that you need to learn and start to do. That's what we did today in our class. And then the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Wednesday, I'm going to do a 4-part series on learning loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that's going to help you eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, even the slightest dislike towards other people. And through gradual training, you can get to that point. If you have this inner dialogue in your mind that is degrading and diminishing, this meditation is going to help you eliminate that too. Then I'm going to teach you a 4-part series on Buddhist chanting and helping you to understand how to do Buddhist chanting and what the history of that is and development and helping you to develop a practice for yourself. And then from that point forward, I'm going to be doing on Wednesdays 1 breathing mindfulness meditation on one Wednesday, and the next Wednesday a loving kindness meditation. I'm going to rotate back and forth and just open up to any and all questions that you guys have. So this is everything that I had to share with you guys today. There's a lot of content today to be able to share with you. So our class is a little bit longer than typical. Our classes can range anywhere from some of them are as short as an hour up to an hour and a half, which is kind of a little bit more typical. And rarely do our classes go 2 hours long, but it just depends on what we're talking about and what questions exist. So let me know if you guys have any questions on anything that I've been sharing so far. And as I mentioned, this is the last thing that I have to share with you guys today. Remember, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any and all questions that you like. Okay, so Terry says, the group learning program you are currently introducing is the Sunday, Wednesday class, correct? Yes, that's exactly correct. This separate from the Saturday class or the occasional Monday through, I think that's Saturday classes. Yes, that's correct. So this is the group learning program Sunday and Wednesday. And the Pali Canon English study group is on Saturday. Okay. And then I see Julie is saying, Teacher David, can I ask my friends to attend Wednesday class? Sure. Everybody and anybody is welcome. You can ask anybody you like. Just understand that if you recommend for somebody to attend and you invite them, if they decide not to come, you need to be comfortable with that. Don't pressure them or force them or put any expectations on them or try to pressure them. Just, you can make it available to them. You can post it on your Facebook page. You can send it out in your group chats. And if somebody follows up on it, great. And if not, then that's their choice too. Okay, so Alice is asking, can I join the Pali Canon group at any point? Yes, an individual can join the Pali Canon and English study group at any point. Right now, we're in volume 10 of that program. It's usually best to have a foundation in the teachings first before you move into the Pali Canon and English study group. But you're welcome to come because you'll learn things in that program for sure. But there's just going to be certain things that are maybe beyond what you currently understand right now. But that's okay. You'll pick those things up as you go. So you're always welcome to join that if you like. So we teach that at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. on Saturday. The restart of the Pali Canon program is going to start in January of 2026, but we teach this class each Saturday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. And it's the same place here in Zoom or Facebook and YouTube. You can join it there and you can listen to the recordings as well. In fact, you might listen to a few of the recordings and see if it's something that you're really interested in, or just attend live and see if you're interested in it that way as well. Okay. I don't see any questions anywhere else. So what I'm going to do is just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for being interested in the teachings of the Buddha and the path to enlightenment. I really admire people who decide to learn and grow and develop on a path like this because, showing up to a building and doing a bunch of rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship and things like this, that's easy up front. But then the rest of their life, they're having lots of difficulties and struggling because they haven't gained wisdom to be able to learn and grow and develop in life. Showing up to a program like this, it's challenging to be able to learn and listen to somebody and develop your understanding and implement these teachings into your day-to-day life. But then that makes life so much easier later because you cultivate the wisdom that you need to be able to navigate the world. So I really admire people who are willing to invest time and energy into doing this inner work and developing and growing within their own mind. So I like to just thank you at the end of each class for deciding that today was a day that you were interested in learning and practicing to become a better and better person, and you're interested in the teachings of the Buddha to be able to help you do that. So next Sunday, I'm going to be in the first section of the Eightfold Path. We're going to be learning right view and right intention. This is the wisdom section of the Eightfold Path. And we're going to be using the original words of the Buddha to be able to help you understand what that is. And then you'll be able to ask any and all questions as I teach you. And then on this Wednesday, I'm going to be starting the first of the 4-part series of learning breathing mindfulness meditation. And if you can't attend that live for any reason, you can attend through the recording, either on YouTube, Facebook, or on the podcast. So again, thank you so much for joining, and perhaps I'll see you guys in one of these future classes. Be well and take care. Sawadee ka. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.